I want to talk a little bit about performance and why performance matters. Performance should be a consideration as you're designing your website. You're going to want to have a good understanding of what affects performance and what things you can do to make the performance of the website better. And you want to think about the improvements that you can make on your website that will affect performance. In general, the areas that we're going to be looking at are cleaning up our code, minimizing HTTP requests, compressing files, enable browser caching, and removing JavaScripts that block loading. Studies have shown that users judge the visual appeal of a website in less than a fraction of a second, so that's why first impressions are really important. Users are more than likely not going to wait for a site to load. They will abandon the site in just a couple of seconds if things don't start to happen. Overall, the most important metric isn't how fast your website actually loads, but it's how fast the user perceives it to be. So if the user can see things on their screens before the whole page is done loading, it's going to seem faster. An additional reason to be concerned about performance is currently you get better placement in search engine results if your website is faster. Google has announced that site speed is a factor in search engine ranking algorithms for both desktop and mobile, and that slow sites are going to be penalized in search ranking. So overall, a speedy site is going to affect the user experience in a positive way, and you're going to end up with a better quality site. Since performance is so essential to the user experience of a site, it needs to be considered as a design element rather than just a technical specifications. So from the start of your project, performance should be part of the project. One way that you can ensure positive performance is to develop your site with mobile first in mind. You also want to think about just striking a balance. You want a website that looks good and provides the necessary information and interactivity. If you're adding visual effects that slow down the site and are getting in the way of the main goal, then you need to re-examine why you're actually including those. So to understand all the things that affect the performance of a web page, we need to look at everything that happens when a web page is rendered. Rendering is the process by which browsers read the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript, and all the other resources that are used to display the web page in the browser. So the first thing that happens when you visit a website is you type in the URL or you click a link. Latency is the amount of time it takes to connect to the internet provider. Usually if you're on a broadband connection at your home or office, you don't have to worry about this because you're continually connected to a provider. But if you're on a mobile network, there's a limited amount of bandwidth at any given point in time. So you're not going to have a continuous connection. You're only going to be connected when you're actively requesting or sending information to the internet. So your mobile device needs to connect to the internet in order to load a web page. The speed of the original connection, which we'll refer to as latency, depends on how many devices are trying to get the connection at the same time. So if you're at a location where a lot of people are trying to connect to the internet at the same time, you're going to experience some latency. After you've established a connection, how quickly everything happens is going to depend on a few factors. One is the technical quality of the network. Different carriers use different frequencies. A connection might be quicker on one mobile carrier than on another. For instance, a 4G connection is faster than a 3G connection, but this also depends on whether the mobile device is 4G capable or not. It also matters how close the device is to a cell tower and whether it's on its home network or roaming. Additionally, if the mobile device has other apps running in the background that are accessing the internet, such as maps or something like that, that can affect what's happening in the web browser. Now, obviously, some of these things are not going to be under your control. You just want to be aware of them so that you can make the best possible decisions as far as how your website is going to be served up and the assets that you're going to be delivering to the end user. There are quite a few online tools that you can use to check the performance of your website. We're just going to talk about a few of these, and these will help you estimate how long it's going to take your pages to download and you can hopefully make decisions on things that you can do to optimize them. There are a number of tools available that help you to analyze your page performance. I'll share a couple with you right now. The first one that we'll look at is WhySlow.org. WhySlow.org is a tool for analyzing page performance. It actually is a browser add-on or a bookmarklet that you can use on your desktop or mobile browser. When it analyzes a site, it's going to grade specific areas where problems commonly arise and offer suggestions for optimizing your site. If you come to this website, you can download and install the bookmarklet. I already have mine installed right here, so I'm going to click on this. It's going to open up a separate window that appears at the bottom of my page, and it's actually a free floating extension window. And then what I need to do is I need to load the page that I want to analyze. So I'll make sure that the page is loaded, and I'll click Run Test. And you can see that it goes ahead and runs the test, and then it gives me a grade based on the things that are included in my site. So on this particular page we've gotten a grade of B, and you can see it breaks down the grading and lets us know the things that we did well and the things that we may need to improve upon. So I definitely have some items that I could improve upon. The main things are using a content delivery network. So CDNs are part of your web hosting solution. When you use a CDN, instead of having all of your website files hosted on one server, copies are hosted on servers and data centers in various geographical locations. And when the content is requested from the website, the requests are routed to the most optimal servers based on the physical location, current web traffic patterns, and so on. This can definitely increase the performance of any site, and it's particularly useful for live streaming content or for sites that have a high volume of traffic. You can purchase a CDN service either as an add-on for your web host or from a separate company. Prices start somewhere around $10 a month for small websites, and they go up to thousands of dollars a month for larger sites. This may not be necessary for every type of site though. The next item that we could improve upon is adding expires to headers. You can see that it lets me know that there's 12 static components without a far future expiration date. When you add expire headers onto these particular items, the items become cacheable, and that avoids unnecessary HTTP requests on subsequent views of the page. Most often, expire headers are associated with images, but you can also add them on to other externally loaded content like JavaScript and CSS files. Adding expire headers is a little bit controversial just because you need to really manage which items you're going to put the expire on. You may include it on an item, and if that item is something that's changing regularly, it becomes cached on the end user's machine, and it actually won't update until the caching period has been completed. So you really want to analyze the things that you're going to include the expires headers option on, and make sure that it's something that makes sense to happen. There is a link at the bottom of any of these options so that you can read more. You can just click this link right here, and it'll load a page that gives you more information about the expires or the cache control headers. The rest of our rules are actually pretty good. They're all A's and B's. If you want to find out more about any of these, you just simply click on the link and then you can read more about it. In addition to the grade, you can check on the overall size of components that are being loaded on your page so that you can see where the weightiest components occur. You can see that most of my size is being affected by images, and that's followed by my CSS images that I'm loading. And then I have statistics right here where it gives me information on weight graph. So this breaks down all of the elements that are part of my site and lets me know the areas that are taking up the most resources. In addition to that, I see where the HTTP requests occur. So this is one way that you can check out speed. I'll show you a couple of other tools quickly. This website, webpagetest.org, allows you to enter a URL, and once you've entered the URL, you can specify a test location, and there's locations all over the world that you can select from, and then you can select the browser that you want to target. So this has a number of desktop-based browsers as well as quite a few mobile-based browsers as well. I'll just stick with the iPhone 4 and I will start the test. Once the test is run, it gives you a breakdown with all of the test results. So it lets me know the approximate amount of time in seconds that it takes to have a first view on my page and how long repeat views are going to take. It gives me information about the render time and the speed index, and you can see how long it takes the document to completely load and how many bytes are being loaded completely on my page. As you go ahead and scroll down, you'll get graphs that break down this information for you. If we click on Content Breakdown, this just takes me to a more in-depth page that talks about the content on the page and how the assets are being distributed upon the page load. If I go to the Details tab right here, it gives me a waterfall view, and you can see that it actually analyzes every single asset that I have on my page and lets me know how long that asset takes to actually load and in what order the items actually load at. And there's all kinds of different graphs that you can look at and analyze your site with. So this is a very helpful tool to use for site performance. The last option that I want to share with you right now is tools.pingdom.com/FPT, and this works in a very similar manner. You'll come to the page, you'll put in your URL, and you'll just go ahead and click Test Now. The test starts, and right away it's going to give you results. It'll also give you a performance grade, tell you how many requests have been made, and the load time, and the full page size. And then if you come down to the bottom portion of the screen, it's going to analyze these things in depth. And many of the performance graphs that we get from these tools are very similar. So this is similar to what we were looking at in the last website. I can go to any of these tabs right here, like performance grade, and I can see what sort of grades my site got. So again, you can see that I'm not leveraging the browser caching. We already talked about that. And also we talked about the encoding for the headers. So these are areas that I could improve upon with my site if I chose to do so. I feel for this particular site, these things might not be terribly important for what I'm trying to pull off, but you'll have to analyze your site and make those determinations. If you go to page analysis, this will actually break down and analyze the time that it takes for the assets to load, the size, how many requests are made, and all sorts of other specific information. So hopefully you'll find these tools to be useful in analyzing your site and finding ways where you can tweak the performance